are watching Canadian Muslim News on Muslim Network TV from Toronto, Ontario. I'm Catherine Bullock. Assalamu alaikum and greetings of peace. Up next, we will talk with the producer of Muslimkids TV. They are launching a new 3D TV show and game. But first, some news headlines. Queen's State funeral held in Westminster Abbey, UK. Muslim art show hosted in Calgary. Muslim-Indigenous Connection announces next cohort. Israel arrests director of Jerusalem's Al-Aqsa Mosque. And now the details. Queen Elizabeth II has been laid to rest. This comes after the state funeral for Canada's head of state and Britain's longest reigning monarch was held earlier today at Westminster Abbey, United Kingdom. It is the same place where the Queen married in 1947 and was crowned in 1953. The service was attended by 2,000 people, including Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, US President Joe Biden, and several government officials from around the world. The ceremony was concluded by observing 2 minutes of silence in the Abbey and throughout the United Kingdom. They then sang, "God Save the King." Western Muslim Initiative, a Calgary-based nonprofit, hosts an annual event, Muslim Art Movement, or MAM, to promote Muslim creatives in Alberta and Canada. This year, the theme of the 10th MAM event was heritage. Muslim artists this past Saturday displayed and sold their creative pieces. Mim Fatmi, president of Western Muslim Initiative, has been working for a decade to bring together Muslim artists at the annual art show. Fatmi says to local media that Muslims still experience Islamophobia that started in the aftermath of 9/11. She says because of Islamophobia, Muslims are alienated and not part of the fabric of society. Heritage Canada is funding the second cohort of the Muslim-Indigenous Connection, or MIC. The program pairs Muslim youth with Indigenous groups. It aims to help them develop a deeper connection with the Indigenous community, their culture, and their struggle to achieve peace and reconciliation. MIC is a brainchild of Justice for All Canada, a non-profit human rights and advocacy group. Tahir Ayur, the group's executive director, says there is, quote, a need and appetite in the Muslim community for building meaningful allyship with the Indigenous community. Registrations are open until September 22nd for Canadians aged 14 to 22 years. Israeli police on Monday have detained the director of Al-Aqsa Mosque, Sheikh Omar al-Kiswani, in East Jerusalem. According to eyewitnesses, Israeli forces raided the home of al-Kiswani in Al-Tur neighborhood and confiscated a computer and a number of documents. On Saturday, Israeli media reported that Israeli authorities had decided to deport a number of Palestinians from Al-Aqsa Mosque for the preparation of Jewish holidays. Al-Kiswani has been detained several times in the past. Al-Aqsa Mosque is the world's third holiest site for Muslims. Israel occupied East Jerusalem, where Al-Aqsa is located, during the 1967 Arab-Israeli War. Since 2003, Israel has allowed settlers into the holy compound daily, with the exception of Fridays and Saturdays. And that's it for the news. We have covered recently a study by the Southern University of California about the top 200 TV shows in the US, UK, Australia, and New Zealand. Not surprisingly, the study found that Muslim characters are underrepresented in general, but overrepresented when it comes to violent characters. Michael MILO, along with his wife, founded Muslimkids TV to try and bring alternatives to our community. He joins us now. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the show.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. Thank you for having me. We're very honored to be part of the new network.
It's our pleasure. And I'm sure that a lot of parents are very excited to know about the work that you're doing. Not everyone says, oh, there's not enough good Islamic content on TV. Let me go and found my own TV station. So can you tell us a little bit about what encouraged you to take that plunge?
Sure. Yeah, we launched Muslimkids TV in 2016. And it was really a journey of work developing Islamic content for broadcasters and for others. And I was a director of programming for one of the first Islamic TV channels English language TV channels in the Middle East. And our family went to Egypt. I'm a revert. My wife's a revert. So what we found when we were there, we had fully expected that we would turn on the TV, the children would be immersed in Muslim heritage and learning the Arabic language. And out of a 200 channel satellite universe that was in 2006, there was only one children's TV channel, and that was playing Tom and Jerry reruns 24 hours a day.
Oh.
So, we were very, very surprised, thinking that, there would be internationally Muslim content. And as we searched, we found that really in most Muslim countries, the children's entertainment, education, media industry is very underdeveloped. So we saw this as an opportunity, and we started producing children's content. And then we eventually, in 2016, because the technology was ready, we launched it as a streaming service. So we're actually very, proud of the fact that we beat Disney Plus to market by about 3 years.
Oh, congratulations.
Yes.
Well, one of the things that I noticed when my kids were younger is that a lot of the content, cartoons and things that were supposed to be Islamic, well, maybe I shouldn't say this, but a little bit boring, a little bit didactic. And my kids developed like an allergy to, I'd say, come and watch this Islamic cartoon. And they'd be like, no, thanks. So, Tom and Jerry has so much more appeal, unfortunately. How have you managed to balance? Like, is that inevitable when you're trying to quote unquote teach the faith?
No, it's not inevitable by any means. And I think that's part of, our core philosophy as a channel or as a streaming service to make the content very, very enjoyable for the children, right? So, how we do that is we use, the best professionals in the market. We've got a wonderful team of writers that, have that industry experience. But I think one of the issues that has limited Islamic content for children and for adults for that matter is the lack of the infrastructure to fund it and develop it. So, when, these big media companies are producing one cartoon episode for $300,000, and we're producing it for $10,000, there's going to be a big discrepancy. And so one of the wonderful things that, because we're a Canadian company and we're based in Canada, we've now been successful at utilizing Canadian production industry incentives for our work. And over the past couple of years, now we have another funding source for the production that gets the budgets a little bit closer. Of course, they're not like, a Disney budget or a Pixar budget or anything like that, but at least it gets us that much more closer. But nevertheless, we still
find it hard to make that pitch. Is there like an anti-Muslim or anti-faith bias when you're pitching to those funders?
No, not so much. Certainly we walk the line in terms of preaching through our content, and we don't propose those shows just because we know that gets into kind of a much more difficult area for those funders. But that said, if it's celebrating Muslim heritage, Muslim culture, they're very, very willing to hear those voices. And in fact, over the past, 2 or 3 years, they've realized that there has been a lot of exclusion in the Canadian media industry of people of color, of, different faiths and backgrounds. So there's a lot more, there's a lot more support for that. And alhamdulillah, we are being a beneficiary of it. And after all, Muslims have been paying taxes for probably 100 years now in Canada. And so we should be beneficiary of some of that.
Now you've got an exciting announcement. You're in production for a new TV show and game. Tell us about that.
Yes, yeah. So one of these projects in particular is called Time Hoppers, the Silk Road. So it's basically a time travel action adventure where kids from the year 2050 travel back into time during the golden age of Islam to save, the great scientists of that era from an evil alchemist.
Mm.
So we did, the first proposal was actually for an interactive game. And, all the parents out there, I'm sure, know how much the children are actually into gaming now. So we built out the prototype. We delivered on time, on budget, with a very high quality prototype. So the Canadian Media Fund and other funding agencies in Canada said, wow, this is great, and have agreed to fund the production of the entire game. And then at the same time, there was a fund out there to support kind of web series. And we applied for that. And alhamdulillah, we were successful. And this will be our first venture into 3D animation, inshallah. So, we're excited. It's a multi kind of channel product. And we're hoping, inshallah, by next summer or next fall, it will be releasing on Nintendo Switch, as well as being available on mobile, on PC, and on our platform, as well as.
Congratulations. That's really wonderful news. Yeah. Who came up with the idea? So you're starting in the future and then you're going back to the past.
Yes.
Why did you decide to spotlight that moment in history, and how was that decided?
Well, I mean, that history is very, very rich. And of course, because the game is not, religiously didactic, but more cultural, the game is intended for audiences of all faiths, all backgrounds, right? So we know that that's a really important period of history. And part of the point that we're making is that the kids have to go back to save the future, because if the inventions of these scientists are lost, we won't have the algorithm, we won't have modern medicine, we won't have, so much of the foundation of modern science was laid during that period. And many people don't know about it, right? So that's the purpose of the game, is to bring that to life for kids all around the world, so that they understand that, Muslims are not, haven't always been in the state we are currently.
Do you find is there uptake already from non-Muslims for your products?
Yes. I mean, for this particular game, we've, attended a few game developer conferences and events where we've had the prototype available for play, and, kids of any background love it just as much as Muslim kids. And, it's wonderful. It's a wonderful way that kids learn about our past.
So it's sort of normalizing identity, and it doesn't always have to be around, preaching of the faith.
Yes, exactly.
I noticed, though, on your website, you have testimonials from a lot of religious leaders endorsing the product or endorsing your channel. Was it important to you to have that kind of religious endorsement, even though you're trying to be very careful about preaching the faith?
Yeah. Well, within our platform, we also have a lot of content that builds up the child's religious knowledge, basically. So the game, I think, if we think of the game, is a little bit distinct from the offering on Muslimkids TV itself. Muslimkids TV, we're actually like a full spectrum of educational entertainment, right? So some of it is faith-based, so children will really be able to kind of learn in a fun way about the stories of the prophets and the Sahaba, and even certain aspects of our deen and practice.
And unfortunately, I have to cut you off. I asked a big question right at the end. We're out of time. Sorry for that, but thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you again for the opportunity, and we hope we'll be a guest more.
Thank you for watching. If you like what we do, please share, like, and subscribe. Stay safe, and God bless.